Jayson Blair was a young man uh, who was hired at the New York Times, perhaps without sufficient checking into his background and perhaps without sufficient preparation for a job as highly pressured and visible as working at the New York Times is, and assigned him at one point to do a story, a big story a few years ago about a sniper who was killing people in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. It turned out that one of his stories was seen by a reporter in San Antonio, Texas, who happened to know him. He had lifted some of that reporter's story. He was stealing her material. And so he didn't want to call attention to that. He thought he could get away with it. The reporter in Texas got in touch with Blair's editors at the New York Times, and that started an investigation. What the investigation showed was that some of Blair's reporting had been falsified, that Blair had not talked to some people that he claimed to have talked to, that he made up quotes that they never said. Jayson Blair was making it up. Jayson Blair was writing fiction. When the New York Times learned this, they were, of course, mortified, because the reputation of the paper depends on the reputation of the people who work for it. And those of us who have read the New York Times religiously for many years were quite surprised that a reporter at the New York Times would do this and got away with it for so long. In point of fact, there is no excuse for this sort of thing. And I would say he is now, as far as I know, completely out of journalism. I mean, his career is over. There's a couple reasons why not to do this. In the end, it's a career ender. So just from a practical perspective, you don't want to do it because you'll get caught. What Jayson Blair did was wrong. The most important reason is that he misled 1 million New York Times readers and led them to believe things that were not true, and that fundamentally undercuts the purpose of a great daily newspaper, which is to get as close to the truth as one can get. What he should have done was he could have said, as reported by Ms. Hernandez in the San Antonio newspaper, and then quote her, give her credit, or paraphrase her. I do say to my students that if any of you ever damages the reputation of the Newhouse School through what you do in the workplace, we will not forget it. If you develop bad habits at the school, then those bad habits will follow you into the workplace. You may get away with it in the school. We may not catch you. I wouldn't say that we have a 100% record. And you may get away with it for a little while in the professional world. But eventually you'll get caught. And when you get caught, you crash and you burn.